whether it be roads, hospitals, or schools. Infrastructure deficit in the satellite towns of Abuja is in focus this week on Dateline Abuja. And on this episode, even though we're not going to a satellite town, we make our way to Lugbe, where the residents are asking for help with the roads there. And we take a look back at some of the issues encountered by residents of Lugbe in the past year. To give an understanding of what's really going on in Lugbe and plans for its infrastructure future, we have a perspective from the FCT authorities, and we have an update of the major stories from Nigeria's presidency. This is Dateline Abuja. Hello and welcome to Dateline Abuja. I am Kayla Megwa. We have quite a lot to cover today, but not before we bring you up to speed on the major stories from Nigeria's presidency. It's time for our Abuja Wrap.
Following another consultative meeting, the federal government and the leadership of the organized labor unions in the country have agreed on 70,000 naira as the new minimum wage. Speaking after the meeting, which was presided over by President Bola Tinubu, the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mr. Mohammed Idris, said in addition, the federal government will invest more in renewable energy and the acquisition of CNG buses. The labor leaders on their part shared the decision to review the minimum wage every 3 years.
We are taking this with mixed feeling because of the situation of the economy, but we have to move ahead. Despite the situation, and the negotiation can linger. Coming from 62 to 70, and then with the promise that we'll come back soon to negotiate it. We are taking it back to our constituency.
Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu has directed that the concerns of members of the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, SANU, and those of the Non-Academic Staff Union of Universities, NASU, should be looked into and the modalities worked out to pay them. This was disclosed by the Minister of State for Labor and Employment and labor leaders after a meeting with President Bola Tinubu in the State House. The academic unions have demanded the payment of their 4-month withheld salaries and the renegotiation of the 2010 agreement with the federal government, among other demands.
He promised and asked that the Minister of Finance, coordinating economy and budget and the economic planning should make sure that they go back to books, because he has the discretion to look into of NASU, ASU, and SANU and all that, and so that their money should be paid, and they should work out the modalities, whether it's 50% or whatever, but that he has given that waiver.
The Minister of Information and National Orientation says the federal government has distributed 20 trucks of rice each to the 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Disclosing this after the Federal Executive Council meeting, the minister said this is the first step as government takes steps to address the issues of food shortage in the country. He appealed to the governors to ensure the effective distribution of the grains to the most vulnerable in the society. To the National Assembly now, where the Senator sacked Senator Alin Dume as Chief Whip of the Senate, replacing him with Senator Tahir Monguno, representing Borno North. The sack followed a voice vote after the commencement of plenary, where the upper chamber took a unanimous resolution to effect the replacement following a letter of complaint from the headquarters of the All Progressives Congress (APC), read by the President of the Senate, over the utterances of the Chief Whip they described as unbecoming. The National Council on Nutrition, chaired by Vice President Kashim Shettima, has approved new measures to combat malnutrition and food insecurity in the country. The Council gave the approval at its meeting held at the Presidential Villa Abuja, during which the Vice President calls for active and proactive involvement of all stakeholders. Among the measures approved by the Council are the establishment of a national dashboard to provide better oversight and cooperation of nutrition-related initiatives across Nigeria.
In all that we discussed today, the urgency of action was emphasized, and we launched, I can say, a template which will lead to very, very careful and very, very precise monitoring of implementation. As we all know, often some of these programs fall down at the level of implementation, so extra effort and extra attention is being paid to make sure that what is planned, what is promised, is faithfully implemented.
Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court has dismissed a suit by the impeached Deputy Governor of Edo State, Philip Shuaibu, and others seeking to void Aso Ighodalo's nomination as the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, in the forthcoming governorship election in Edo State. In a judgment, Justice Omotosho held that the suit, which challenged Ighodalo's qualification on the grounds that he allegedly forged his voter's card, was statute barred. Justice Omotosho held that the suit, being a pre-election case, was filed outside the 14 days allowed under Section 285, subsection 9 of the Constitution. The judge also held that even though forgery and non-possession of voter's card was a disqualifying factor under Section 182 of the Constitution, the plaintiff failed to prove that Ighodalo forged his voter's card as alleged by the plaintiffs.
Welcome back. Residents of the Federal Housing Authority, Lugbe, are soliciting the federal government's intervention over the poor state of the roads in the area. These residents told Channels Television that roads in Lugbe have not received any major maintenance in the last 10 years. As the city centre gets the much-needed facelift it's getting, Abuja's satellite towns are in dire need of critical infrastructure. And that call has started in earnest with the residents of Lugbe. Please watch this. This is Lugbe, a residential district and town in Abuja, under the Abuja Municipal Area Council, chaired by this man, Christopher Kalanguzaka. The town covers approximately 50 square kilometers and is a countryside settlement expanding on the urban fringe of Abuja. The area is site to a Voice of Nigeria transmission station, Federal Housing Authority estate, and the National Space Development and Research Agency. Over the years, Lugbe has had issues with its infrastructure. Flooded estates and demolitions have been the bane of the existence of residents of Lugbe. Most recently is this demolition on the 7th of August 2023 at a timber shed along the Ring Road 3, Lugbe Federal Housing Authority, site of the proposed electricity corridor line of the Transmission Company of Nigeria. Gloomy faces and downcast eyes. Scrambles to save what they can amidst the sense of loss, both emotional and financial, sweeping through these onlookers, most of whom are shop owners at the timber shed, which is being demolished here by the Federal Capital Development Authority. Owners of some of these demolished shops say they were not given enough time to move their things.
The notice was too sudden because before cancellation, there's always provision. You make provision for good roads. So this one they are doing now, everybody got their money from hard-earned sweat. Now, they've demolished this thing now. There is no basis for where they are relocating to. So, if government there is a way, if you want to do something, make provision before cancellation. That's what we're saying.
I feel very bad because I lose 3 shops here now, as you can see. So it's not easy. Although they give us time, but the time is not enough for us. And some of us, we did not remove our things. But I thank God, the people that came, they pity us. They can be able to help us to keep our things outside.
Despite these claims of a short notice to vacate the area, the facts say something totally different. This meeting was held on the 16th of June 2023, and seated in this conference room are the leadership of traders of the timber shed in a meeting with the Federal Capital Territory Development Authority and representatives from the Transmission Company of Nigeria. At this meeting, the traders were reminded that they were given a notice to evacuate the area a year ago.
The Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, is reinforcing its high-voltage transmission line along the corridor of Ring Road 3, where you are operating your businesses. And we have been adequately informed, and we believed, because we are part of the process, that all affected persons, the project affected persons, have been compensated. And we have had courses to remove structures on that particular line of the project. We've had meetings with you. We have served relevant notices. So now that the project is upcoming, we are hereby intimating you that please, before Development Control move in with their machines, just pack your items and valuables to allow the project commence. Looking at the importance of this project as we have highlighted, and looking at also you being business operators, you need to move some items, but then we have to have a middle line. That's why we are giving you your whole week. That is from, we're supposed to go there on the 19th, but now we are shifting it to Saturday. So whatever you want to do, you can do it between today and that Saturday, next week, Friday, exactly 1 week. So please, this is the decision.
Perhaps the most popular story from Lugbe, which lends to this infrastructure deficit, is the yearly flooding of Trademore estate, a situation the FCT authorities blame on houses built on floodplains, which they say must be demolished.
If you demolish a house and you don't demolish the whole of it, or if there are 10 houses sitting on the waterways and you remove just one house, has it solved the problem? It can never solve the problem. That is what I want you to understand. If we marked 116 houses, and out of that 116 houses, only 20 houses were demolished. Other 80-something are still sitting on the waterways. Will it solve any problem? Some that were demolished, they are renovating them. What is going to happen?
Officials of the estate disagree on the position of the FCT Emergency Management Department.
Demolition is not a way out of solving the flood issue in Trademore. And for your information, the flood we have today is just a flash flood at the entrance, which came as a result of overflowing of the boundaries. It didn't enter any house. It's just there, and all these things can be seen. I don't understand why government are bent on rendering innocent citizens homeless rather than providing, a succor for their problems.
Lugbe's road infrastructure is also cause of concern for residents of the town. This is the Federal Housing Authority, Lugbe, one of the most popular suburban resettlements along the airport road in the Federal Capital Territory. Notice the shaking shots as we drive along the road? It's evidence of the poor state of the road. From the market to other major business areas, these traders had this to say.
This road is affecting us seriously because many motor cannot pass here because of this bad road. So we are begging you people to come and help us so we can be able to sell and feed our family, our children. We are suffering. Things are so hard now that we cannot even sell because of this bad road.
During rainy seasons, you can actually barely go out to do things. Like we now doing business around here now. If it's actually raining, most customers won't be able to come around here.
Lugbe is home to many of the middle class and lower class residents of the nation's capital. Some of these residents have even tried to remedy the situation themselves, to no avail. We proceed to two other areas along the airport road, Sabon Lugbe and Ako Estate, and a similar situation is what we found there. Efforts to reach out to the chairman of the Abuja Municipal Area Council, Mr. Christopher Mekalanguzaka, for a word on this situation proved abortive. However, in June of 2024, he flagged off the construction of a 1.5-kilometer road in Lugbe. Some residents consider this as insignificant because it is not a major access road into the area. As the FCT authority embarks on building and/or rehabilitation of road infrastructure in the city center, one thing in the hearts of most residents of these areas like Lugbe is the need for urgent remedial action on the road infrastructure here in order to improve their living conditions. My guest on the program is Mr. Richard Daudu, the Acting Director, Engineering Services at the Federal Capital Development Authority. What's the plan for roads in Lugbe and infrastructure in Abuja's satellite towns? Please watch this. Mr. Richard Dauda, welcome to Dateline Abuja.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I mean, when it comes to road infrastructure in the FCT, we're going to try and go around. But when, you know, the suburbs are the ones who are complaining right now. Yes, there's a lot of work being done in the city center, but places like Lugbe are still having to deal with bad roads. Just so we can understand what the plan is for suburbs like Lugbe that still have to deal with this problem.
Permit me to give you a little background about how the city is structured or planned. The city is planned in phases. Phases 1, 2, 3, and 4. Along those phases, we have the northern and southern corridors, development corridors. Northern corridors, we talk of Maitama, Wuse, down to places like Karsana, Kagini, Warimpa, and so on. That's the northern development corridor, bounded by expressways on the outer and on the inner part. The same thing with the southern part. The southern part starts from places like Gariki, the Durumi, the Kaura, down to Lokogoma, and so on. Now, the expectation was to develop sequentially, phase by phase, as the population grows. But as you know, several times and for several reasons, we had population explosion. A lot of people came into the city, and we have a situation where people have developed even before the infrastructure comes. As government will continue to do its best to provide the infrastructure, particularly, as you know.
What do you do when that happens? Is that what's happened in Lugbe, that development came, people flooded the place, and development started before the infrastructure? Is that what happened in Lugbe? That
is partly what happened in Lugbe. But you know, Lugbe itself is situated in a place we call Phase 5 now. Phase 5, which I call the planning area. Now, we have Phase 1 to 4. And the idea was to develop Phase 1 to 4 before we come into Phase 5. Now we have people in Phase 5, and Phase 3 and 4 is still not developed. Now, Lugbe, I believe, because of the access, particularly the airport road, where people can easily join and come into the city, so a lot of people settle. Apart from that, because of the housing needs, the federal housing approach FCT.
Houses are a bit more affordable.
Yes, a federal housing authority.
In Lugbe.
Yes, they were the first to approach the FCT. FCT gave them the land, and they developed houses. Now, when they develop houses, they also provide the infrastructure to the standard for which they provide, which is not in tandem with the standard we provide in the city. Now, because they are there already, when the FCTA is ready and have sufficient funds to go in there, that is when the infrastructure will be provided.
So what happens next?
What happens next is that once it is time, and
so they have to wait until it is time.
They will have to wait until we get to that point. You see, there's something about development infrastructure in the city. It follows a particular sequence. Now, take for example, sewage, liquid waste disposal, or even water supply. If you are going to connect water supply, for example, to the Lugbe area, you will have to come through a Phase 3. You get it? So that you lay pipes that interconnect sequentially until it gets there. And so once there's a gap, of course, that gap will have to be filled before they get there. So, and as it is, like I told you, the Lugbe area is part of the planning area.
Well, I mean,
and a lot of development.
People are now there.
People are there.
Plans change.
What are they using?
Wait, Mr. Dowd. Plans change. We evolve. And I know that the master plan evolves, adapts, it changes. Could it be that maybe it's important now, since there is a high density of people in places like Lugbe, for instance, even with this explanation, is it possible to tilt things such that the infrastructure that these many people require will be provided for before you start to look at the other districts and the other places where they may be following the chronology of the plan for the FCT, but they don't have the population density of places like Lugbe? Is that something that the FCDA can even look at?
Well, as much as possible, the FCDA, or rather the FCT administration, seeks to develop projects that are people-centered. But again, I told you the paucity of funds is a very huge challenge, especially for us as a developing nation that is struggling with the economy and so on. It will be our desire that we open up everywhere and be constructing roads and providing water. Unfortunately, we are limited, in several ways. And that is why the people that now live on Lugbe will have to exercise some patience until that comes. Meanwhile, agencies like Federal Housing Authority that have developed there, I think it behoves on them for now to continue to upgrade and maintain the infrastructure they provided there, pending when the kind of infrastructure we would like to provide will come. As you mentioned also the issue of flooding, as the population grew, of course, a lot of the channels that existed, some got blocked. In fact, some constricted, some developed even right into the riverbeds and so on. So you find that when these channels are constricted, of course, several things happen. One, the streams overflow, especially when the rain season comes. Secondly, the velocity of the water increases, and so the effects downstream. And several other things happen. I know you have heard where houses were submerged. FCT went there several years ago and asked them to evacuate. Some refused, and some even decided to do otherwise. So this is recognized. In fact, if I may tell you, the master plan recognized that the location of the federal capital city is such that it's on a plain. We call it Gwagwa Plains. And so there will be some level of flash flooding. But what has been done is to provide infrastructure that are resilient and that will be able to, to control this flooding. There are plans. The master plan has, designs to some extent for even river training, stream training, river training, and so on, such that the rivers don't overflow. But as it is, some people have occupied some of them. Some have decided to build culverts that don't meet capacity without any sort of studies, which we ordinarily, as FCDA, as engineers, will do first before some of those developments. Go down up to Karshi, you will see roads have been provided, power supply is done, and so on. So it's a progressive. The Abuja project itself is a work in progress, and I believe we're progressing very well. Thank you very much.
I want to thank you so much, Mr. Richard Dauda, for being with us on Dateline Abuja, and good luck with all the work you have ahead of you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Good to meet you.
Thanks to my guest and to everyone who spoke to us today on the program. The nation's capital has a minister who listens when you complain. Genuine complaints, of course. So let's explore that option. Send pictures or videos of infrastructure deficits in your neighborhood to the social media handles showing right now on your screen. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Kayla Magwa. See you next time.